evening. Good evening, all. Good evening, and welcome to the, welcome all, please settle down. Okay, thank you. Thank you, and welcome. Is my microphone not working? This seems, is it working now? Yeah, that's better. Thank you. And welcome to the February 11th, 2019 City Council meeting and public forum. And we will begin with the public forum. So I'll just read the rules as usual. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And we have 24 speakers today, so a good group, but not an overwhelming number of people. And just a reminder that we like to keep this a quiet and respectful place, so no verbal outbursts, but you are always welcome to signal your approval by wiggling your fingers. So thank you very much for making it safe for everyone to express their opinion. And first up, we have, oh, and just another reminder that I'll read 2 names. The second person can sit in the warm-up seat, and so that we move along smoothly. First up is Stefan Streck, followed by Becky Bruckner.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, City Council, and the people of Eugene. My name is Stefan Streck. I am very happy to be here today, and I hope everyone got their girlfriend or boyfriend, husband, significant other, a fantastic gift for Valentine's Day. It's a very special holiday, and we should all have more love in our hearts. This last week was possibly the best week of my life because I made a really good friend. All my life, I have looked for the best Chinese food on earth. From Washington, D.C., South Carolina, Seattle, Boston, Sydney, Paris, Amsterdam. I have eaten at all these Chinese places, and they're great, and the best is right here in Eugene. It's ran by a man named Mr. Tom, and he runs Tom's Tea House right next to Doco on 13th Street. Nicest guy ever. I walked in there. I've always noticed this little space, and it's gorgeous. Now, he's a really nice guy. I sat down, he said, let me cook for you the chicken chow mein. His special's $5.50, huge box of food, and it's amazing. It's really good. I guarantee it. Now, I asked him, tell me about yourself. And it turns out he's from Tibet, bless you. And he's just such a great guy. He's so generous. He owns all this property in town right next to Sweet Life that he's worked for the past 40 years to use to help the underserved members of our community, homeless, veterans, Section 8 recipients, impoverished families. And somehow this city has thought that it's all right to kick in the doors of this man's tenants, evict them without notifying him as a landlord with due process, and try to take his property with adverse possession? That just doesn't sound right to me. I like the elderly. I want to help immigrants and Buddhists and Tibetans that just want to help our community. This is a great guy, and he deserves better than the rap he's got. Now, I spoke with Mr. Tom for quite a while, and he's willing to be reasonable. He's a great guy. Let me show you a picture. So this is me and Tom right after I gave him a painting, because I think he's a nice guy. I make paintings. I'm an artist. I like helping people. Tom also likes helping people. So it's really just too bad because the city hasn't listened to him. He's given me all this paperwork that says that you guys haven't responded to him in almost 1.5 years now. And he's just so sad. But he gave me a gift. Now this is really something special. This is authentic Tibetan. And you can't get these just anywhere. And he said, Mr. Streck, please help me. Speak to the city council and ask them to help my tenants and my people, and I will help you however I can. I love this man. Please listen to Mr. Tom. Thank you very much. You know my number. Please call me. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Bruckner, followed by Sabrina Siegel.
Hi, I'm Becky Bruckner. I live in Eugene, and I'm here to speak about 5G. That's my concern. And I've been out to the high school, and I've been out to the intersection there where Sundance is, and I've seen both units of 5G. They're both identical. And I took measurements at the high school with a tape measure and my friend. And that pole is 245 feet from the pole to the high school wall. It's also from the pole to the apartment building right by it, it is 23 feet. From the ground to the bottom of the brown box, it is 10 feet. That box houses the radiation. It's about 4 feet tall and about 2 feet wide. It's 10 foot off the ground. So if you were a 6 foot tall person, you could actually jump up and touch the bottom of the box. On the box, it says, stay away, radiation, dangerous. Okay, you've got little kids playing in the courtyard of that apartment building 23 feet from this radiation device that warns the public to stay away. These are little kids on tricycles with play toys. Okay, this is really, really close to that apartment. And I think that that pole has been illegally installed. And the one on 24th and Hilliard is right on the corner where the stop sign is. So if you want to cross the street, you have to stand under the brown box and be irradiated. And the stop signal at that intersection is really long. I've waited there many times, and it seems like it's super long. I mean, minutes long. So those people are being irradiated standing by the box. And if you haven't seen these boxes, you need to go out and look at them and measure them like I did, and look at the sign on the box. Warning, radiation, danger, has the symbol of radiation on it also. In other words, stay away. They're dangerous. They irradiate millimeter waves. I'm really concerned about this. I have seen these two poles. I know there's another pole at the Crossfire, the old Crossfire Church, put on near my friend's home. I'm concerned about the high school kids. They have to be concerned in school about being shot by guns. That's a reality. Now they have to be concerned about the radiation. How many concerns do school children have to have? And what about those kids at the apartment being irradiated on without even knowing it or being able to do anything about it? 2 mothers in that apartment found out about this, and they are so upset. They are really upset, and they'll probably move. People will start moving away. And downtown, I'm not going to go shopping in downtown anymore because these units are going to be put all over downtown. And then your parking meters will have less coins in them because people aren't going to be parking in downtown anymore. I really believe that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sabrina Siegel, followed by James Manning.
Hello, I'm a resident of Eugene. Thank you. Tonight, it was stated, and last time we came, it was stated by eWeb and the City Council that their hands are basically tied where it comes to jurisdiction over 5G. And I'm here to correct that notion. I have an anonymous source who is a legal expert on this subject, and I'm handing you these documents for your lawyers to review. One includes the testimony of the chairman of the FCC itself, Ajit Pai, and he quotes, a Supreme Court precedent makes evident that the FCC simply does not have the power to do what it claims to be doing. In taking this step, the FCC usurps fundamental aspects of state sovereignty, and it disrupts the balance of power between the federal government and state governments that lies at the core of our constitutional system of government. In Justice Scalia in Prince versus United States, quote, "We held in New York versus United States that Congress cannot compel the states to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program. Today, we hold that Congress cannot circumvent that prohibition by conscripting the state's officers directly. The federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems, nor command the state's officers or those of the political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty." So you guys can do something. You guys can put forth a ban like San Rafael and other cities in California and other cities around the globe. You could do something. Your hands are not tied, and you could give these to your lawyers, and you could review, and you could step up, and you could protect the population here, all the children and all the vulnerable people of Eugene. Thank you so much.
Thank you. James?
For all of you.
James Manning, followed by John Thielking.
Okay. So I'm James Manning. Sometimes being tall is not that great. I don't know if you can hear me in there. I don't know if you need it. But I, recently found myself looking for a place to live. And if it weren't for my parents, I'd be a homeless man standing here in front of you. I can live in my truck. It's just me and my dog. He'd keep me warm. But the deal is that I work with a guy who supports 3 people, 2 young children, and his, partner on 1 paycheck. And I lived at the Echo Apartments for a good couple years, and they raised our rent every year while I was there from, $1,200 to $1,300 a month. And I worry about my coworker. That's extreme, $1,500 a month for 2 bedrooms, not in a luxury place, This is something that I couldn't support. I'm looking for a place right now, and I'm having a really hard time doing it. But it's not really me who I'm worried about. I don't support anybody but my little dog and myself, but my coworker, Chase, he's got a lot more pressure on him. And it's a form of extortion, I think. When you have people that are just working people, like, I'm not asking for any handouts, I'm not in any public service. Actually, I make too much money to be on OHP. I make too much money for affordable housing at $14 an hour. I just want to bring this to your attention because I love this city and I appreciate what you do for us, because it's a very hard job to sit up there where you do. And I would like to continue to be a member of this community. Currently, I'm laying foundations for new houses of which I could never dream to afford. I can't go to those houses. I could never put down thousands of dollars to go and get a loan to buy a house that's cheaper than rent. So be careful of the foundation of your community, us low-wage workers. We're not asking for much. I just want a place to live, a 1-bedroom. But mostly I want to make sure that people like my coworker don't end up on the street again. Because he fought hard to get where he's at. And I don't want to come before a body without some sort of suggestion. I don't claim to know what's going on in the housing world in our community, but my suggestion would be put some sort of per square foot cap on, the raising of rents, because when you're in some place and you keep getting your rent jacked up on you and your wage doesn't go up, well, what are you going to do? So thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here.
Thank you. John Thielking, followed by Fred Williams.
Hello, John Thielking, Ward 1. There is a series of 3 public hearings scheduled for February 19th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. in Harris Hall, 125 East 8th Avenue, Eugene, Oregon, concerning the construction excise tax, anti-panhandling ordinance, and expansion of the nuisance ordinance. I'm opposed to all 3 proposals in their current forms. The CET should be imposed at a robust 1% from the get-go, with the possibility of new technologies such as 3D printing that will dramatically lower construction costs, there soon will be no reason to bother building anything that has a current profit margin of less than 1%. I'm currently gathering signatures with opt-in options for people to be contacted on 2 informal petitions against both the anti-panhandling ordinance proposal and the revision of the nuisance ordinance proposal. As of Sunday night, February 10th, I have personally gathered 294 signatures on the petition against the anti-panhandling ordinance, with 179 of those signatures gathered when there was an opt-in option on the form. Of the 179 people on that group, there are 71 opt-ins who wanted to be contacted by the campaign, or about a 40% opt-in rate. The petition against the nuisance ordinance expansion started circulating on Friday, February 8th, and currently has 58 signatures with 25 opt-ins. I'm hoping to eventually collect many more signatures and opt-ins on both petitions, as even just on Sunday alone, I had 4 or 5 people get copies of both petitions and make copies and circulate themselves. Over half of the other people circulating the petitions have the version with the opt-in feature. I will be making the phone calls and sending emails to the various opt-ins to see if they will make it to the hearing on February 19th. I'm opposed to the anti-panhandling ordinance because it violates First Amendment rights of both the pedestrian and the motorist. I believe that the transfer of items to and from vehicles to by pedestrians is so safe that it really doesn't need any additional regulation. But if you are going to be concerned about traffic safety, there should be something in the ordinance about transferring flyers from pedestrians to vehicles, or at least cover the big loophole that would allow a driver to hand an item to someone seated on a bike without penalty. The nuisance ordinance expansion looks to me like an attempt to turn the whole city of Eugene into one giant homeowners association. Rat and mice infestations are a problem for many homeowners, not just the ones at the bottom who have trash-filled yards that the health inspector from Eugene, Danny State, might want to write a ticket for. I have a relative who lives in a condo that is as clean on the inside as a local hospital, but she regularly sees signs of rats in the garage. Would you sanction her if this ordinance were in effect in her community? It looks to me like the nuisance ordinance is just an excuse to drive poor people who have small problems with their ability to maintain their properties out of the city. For many of these people, including myself and the residences I've occupied over the past 2 decades, these places are the last places of refuge for the people living there will be cast out on the street. Thank you. And no to 5G. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Williams, followed by Debbie McGee.
Thank you. My name is Fred Williams, City of Eugene, unknown ward. Corruption is defined as dishonest and fraudulent conduct by people of power, typically for money. I believe that the City of Eugene's police department, the city planning, the city attorney's office, and the city manager's office are all guilty of corruption and discrimination against people with disabilities. Specifically, the police department refuses to enforce handicap parking. They have tried to say that they are enforcing handicap parking by using volunteers to do so. Unfortunately, this protects businesses from the law of handicap parking because those volunteers, it is illegal for them to write citations to those business owners, and the business owners may tell them to leave at any time, and they must do that without writing a citation. City's planning department is not going to businesses to enforce handicap parking. They don't go back to businesses whenever businesses are left and a new business comes in and starts a new business there. They don't go back to check for handicap parking. They don't insist that the handicap parking be done at these businesses. And when businesses repaint, which by law they're supposed to put down new and ADA required handicap parking spots, they don't have to, and the city doesn't insist that they do so. The city attorney's office and the city's police department has actually had to talk to the state police regarding handicap parking because the city had a policy that said they would not go onto private property to enforce handicap parking, and it was a city policy. Unfortunately, that's against the law. And the state police had to step in, talk to the police department about this, and the city attorney's office and the police department then sealed that up and would not allow that to be printed off and given to me so that I could take that to an attorney. Currently, it stands that there is no enforcement of handicap parking in the city of Eugene except to people who are actually disabled. I can get a ticket for parking in a handicap parking spot if I don't put my placard out. But if a business owner puts puts a vehicle in their handicap parking spot, they don't get a ticket. The city police department has told me they will not issue citations to business owners who illegally park in handicap parking or block their handicap parking illegally. That's a violation of the law, and that's corruption. I would hope that this body would look into that and do something about it. Also, I was working with the human rights here in the city of Eugene. The lady, Erica Abbey, who was helping me, was removed from her position because of it. She was the one who facilitated the state police meeting with the Eugene police and the city attorney's office, and they pushed her out of her position for helping. So, thank you.
Thank you. Debbie McGee, followed by Linda Perrine.
Good evening. My name is Debbie McGee. On February 15th, I attended the work session on the Northwest Natural Franchise Agreement and Climate Action Plan. Frankly, I was confused when I left. I heard you considering a memorandum of understanding versus a change to the franchise agreement to get us to our goals. This is not the time to back away from precedent-setting decarbonization actions. Let's change the franchise agreement as recommended by Eugene's Sustainability Commission and forget about the memorandum of understanding. We must transition off of fossil fuels for energy. Time to be decisive and make bold actions is now. We have less than 12 years to prevent being locked into the worst of the climate disruption feedback loops. While it is reasonable to not cut off gas customers or penalize them for choices they did not know they were making in regard to gas emissions, it's also necessary for survival to stop new installations of infrastructure and making new gas customers in our community. We must sunset the use of gas. It is a fossil fuel, and the low-carbon pathway of gas may possibly reach as high as 20% at some future unknown date. How will we ever meet the targets in the Climate Recovery Ordinance if we continue to use gas for energy? We must have clean energy, solar and wind. If we are able to survive the methane bomb beneath the melting ice caps, we will need clean energy that comes from nature, energy that does not destroy every living thing. I want to assure everyone that I was listening when Frank Lawson said this evening at the work session that without natural gas, peak use would be expensive with today's mix. Today's mix. Tomorrow's mix will be more affordable wind and solar. If you understand the crisis of climate, you may be familiar with C40's Deadline 2020. It is a commitment from leading cities to urgently pursue climate action, demonstrating how we can deliver on the Paris Agreement, which is congruent with Eugene's CRO. I'll share a brief quote. Holding the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius will require all cities to take transformational actions to reduce transportation emissions, improve building energy efficiency, increase the supply of green energy, and change consumption patterns while strengthening the ability to deal with the impacts of climate change through adaptation. The leadership of 340 cities will also inspire others to act, from national and state governments to businesses and civil society. Together, we can create a healthier, more sustainable, and equitable future for all. You can contact them directly with questions, so can city staff. Please Google C40's Deadline 2030 and learn for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Perrine, followed by Karen Almquist.
Hi, my name is Linda Perrine. I'm here to shine some sunlight on the lack of sufficient solar incentives offered to eWeb customers relative to the rest of Oregon and nationwide. I emailed a copy of my comments to you over the weekend, so you all should have it in your email box. I worked as a solar sales consultant in Portland in the first half of 2018, and then basically did the same job around Eugene and Lane County in the second half of 2018. I sold 40 residential systems in 6 months up in Portland and 0 down here at this end of the valley. One of the myths that I run into frequently on the solar sales trail is it's too cloudy in the Pacific Northwest for solar. Seattle, Washington has 22 hours of annual sunlight, which is quite a bit more than Germany, the country of Germany that has about 1,600 hours average. Germany is putting solar on every horizontal surface they can find. Portland and Eugene has 2,300 hours of sunlight, so there is perfectly adequate solar ability here in Eugene. Some of the comparisons I made in my write-up shows PGE and Pacific Power's incentives. They support annual net metering, and that allows customers to zero out their annual electric bill because they can make credits through the sunny months and apply them throughout the year. In Eugene, with eWeb, they are doing monthly net metering, which means you're only getting credits for the months that your production from your solar system exceeds your consumption. That's generally going to be in the summer months, and the rest of the year you cannot make credits with eWeb. eWeb's solar mix is still only 0.13%. It was encouraging to hear Frank Lawson talk about planning to add more, but there was a definite lack of detail in his discussion on solar and wind and how that was going to grow. Finally, Oregon customers of PGE and Pacific Power are paid retail rates for their solar-generated electricity. eWeb is paying customers 0.0255 cents per kilowatt hour and charging the same customer 0.085 cents per kilowatt hour for their utility-generated electricity. That is a far, far lower rate than pretty much nationwide and certainly with other Oregon utilities. Finally, eWeb is producing about 80% of hydro, as you know, but it's a risk with climate change. Drier years and drought years are going to be a problem with hydro, and emergencies such as earthquake damaging dams is also going to be an issue where you would want a locally produced source of energy. And then recommendations that I made had to do with if you're looking at lack of energy trust of Oregon rebates, you could be applying a public purchase fee to eWeb customers to help build a solar incentive fund here in Eugene. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Almquist, followed by Dave Piccioni.
Hello, and thank you. Hello, councilors and Mayor Venice. I'm here to speak about climate change and the link to 5G, this rollout. I was here for your work session with eWeb, and I heard a lot about smart electrification, electric cars, and some oblique references to the smart metering program, but no mention of 5G and ICT specifically, which is information and communication technologies. I sent you some emails, some references, resources on this topic, including this quote by Jafar El-Mirghani, director of the Institute of Integrated Information Systems at the University of Leeds. He was a keynote speaker recently at the IEEE 5G Learning Series on Energy Efficiency, and he states that information and communication technologies have a carbon footprint comparable to that of the global aviation industry. Unlike global aviation, whose growth is almost flat, the traffic and communication networks continues to grow at 30 to 40% per year, doubling every 2 years and growing by factors of 30 times and 1,000 times in 10 and 20 years, respectively, based on current trends. So I think we need to look at this. We need to create a public forum, perhaps, for the research community, environmentalists at the university, eWeb, end users, the technology providers. We need to get together and look for solutions together. I'm going to read from some journals. This is one from the IEEE Sustainable ICT publication. The same person wrote this, Jafar El-Mirghani. From the IEEE Green ICT Initiative, he says, the rise of information and communications technology and its astonishing growth has created an urgent challenge to our industry's energy consumption and resulting emissions. Recent studies show that ICT industry today is generating approximately 2% of global CO2 emissions. And by the way, this is 2015. I have more recent articles. Comparable to the worldwide aviation industry, this snapshot alone should be a wake-up call. But the sharp growth curve forecast for ICT-based emissions is truly alarming and far outpaces aviation. ICT is forecast to account for about 4% of global CO2 emissions in just 5 years. Use of the internet, which of course depends on ICT, is forecast to grow 30% to 40% per year. resulting in 30 times its current traffic in 10 years and 1,000 times its current traffic in 20 years. At this growth rate, if nothing is done, ICT in 10 years can consume about 60% of global energy resources. Consider this.
Thank you.
I've
You can submit that, yes. Dave Piccioni, followed by Teresa Parker.
I was looking forward to thanking the people that did the presentation today and thanking them for listening to the public comments that a lot of concerned people have here about the environment. I don't see any here. I don't know, are there any? Yeah, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Juan, Jose, or whatever, and the lady over there. Thank you. I was particularly concerned with one thing that the guy that had Steve Metal, I don't know if that's the name of his company or something, he was saying, well, when the energy's low, we fire it up. So that to me means they're burning either gas, methane, nuclear, nuclear and biomass and oil and, oh, he mentioned coal too. Wonderful. Let's burn that. Let's get our electricity by polluting everything, and then we'll have electricity. The other thing I'm going to say real quick, because I don't know how much time I got, is I think that for any conversations about homelessness are to be continued, I would suggest that anybody who's never slept outdoors by themselves in cold situations, grab a sleeping bag and try to find a place where you will not be harassed by cops, try to endure the cold of the night, and try not to get a ticket and survive any possible danger that might be there. I don't think many people are going to take me up on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Parker, followed by Jim Ball.
Good evening. Teresa Parker, I also go by Terry. I live at 1821 Jefferson Street, that's Ward 1. For full disclosure, I'm a retiree of the Lane Council of Governments and of Lane Transit District. I did accessible services there for a number of years. I am a baby boomer that is increasingly concerned about climate change. I'm waking up, and I hope it isn't too late. One of the things that I've become aware of is the Climate Action Plan, and I want to speak to that just briefly. You've heard everything you probably need to know about the urgency of action regarding climate and greenhouse gas emissions. One of the things I'd like to thank you for is the collaboration that the city has had with the Moving Ahead project between LTD and the city. And I think that collaboration is a very important one, since vehicles and our transit system are one of the largest sectors of greenhouse gases. We are really going to be relying on Lane Transit District, as well as bike, peds, and others, to make this plan really work. You can't tweak the system around the edges to get to the level of greenhouse gas reductions that we actually need. And since the Climate Action Plan relies on large stakeholders, all of those that you've talked with and identified with, I'd love to see a document that indicates how the city is going to support these stakeholders. Because if they don't meet their goals, our plan will fail. For example, with transit, can the city help provide the higher level of matching funds now required to get federal money to buy LTD vehicles? Is there a way to help the transit district buy more electric vehicles on a quicker time frame than the one that they currently have? Can the city prioritize transit stops, locations, collaborate on transit enhancements, like signal priority to move transit trips faster without the expense of a full blown-out BRT? Can you do those kinds of things with the current vehicles that exist on a faster time frame than it takes to put a full BRT service into production and service? You have the expertise among you and Councillor Evans to bring more details to this discussion that I can even remember, having retired 5 years ago. It's a matter of trust, really. We've had a plan, and the plan didn't work. It's failing. How do we make sure we aren't setting ourselves up for a failure that we can't afford this time around? Thanks so much, and respectfully, thank you for your good public service work. It's so appreciated.
Thank you. Jim Ball, followed by David Force.
Thank you. My name is Jim Ball. I live in Ward 2, and I would like to talk about the high cost of electric heating systems for large buildings. I'm afraid we're approaching a situation where we can't afford to build public buildings. For residential buildings, there isn't a huge difference in cost between natural gas heat and electric heat pumps. Large buildings are different. They have much more interior volume and many more thermal zones than a house, which means it's not feasible to use residential air source heat pumps. Heat pumps for large buildings extract heat from the ground, which makes these systems much more expensive than air source or natural gas heat. An example of a ground source heat pump system is the new LCC building across from the library. According to the LCC website, this building has 50 350-foot deep wells to extract heat from the ground. It has over 6 miles of plastic piping, numerous pumps and heat exchangers, refrigeration machines, complex controls, large quantities of refrigerant, and if the electricity running the system is generated by fossil fuels, there may be little or no net reduction in carbon emissions. Let's compare the LCC building to our library, which also is our primary warming center for people without housing. The library has 2 high-efficiency natural gas boilers, each about the size of a refrigerator. They provide clean, reliable, affordable heat. If the 2 buildings were cars, the library would be a Toyota Camry. The LCC building would be a Tesla. Eugene is not a rich city. 23% of us are officially below the poverty line, and most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. We can't afford to build public buildings if they all have to be Teslas. This doesn't mean we can't have a serious climate plan. If we focus on electrifying cars, we can make deep cuts in greenhouse gas emissions and still use natural gas for buildings. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. David Force, followed by Eliza Kaczynski.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Eugene. I'm in Mr. Clark's ward, and I don't remember the number. Okay, thanks. I'm here because I was here and watched the joint meeting, and I noticed there was a huge elephant left out of the room. And that elephant was, in my opinion, the fact that one of the largest single greenhouse gas emitters in this entire part of the state was entirely left out of the conversation, and that happened to be a major source of EWEB electricity, and that's the Seneca cogeneration plant out here just outside the city, which EWEB, as you may know, through a terrible political mistake made a few years ago that nobody wants to talk about, signed a contract that has, by law, has to be kept secret forever, has to pay exorbitant prices to buy all of the electric power it generates forever. And according to a ruling by Judge Rasmussen several years ago, EWEB can never disclose to the public, at least to the Register Guard, how much it pays for that and how much electricity it generates. And I went over to El Rapa today and picked up a copy of that plant's discharge permit, which expires at the end of December of this year. And that'll be renewed for another 10 years like it has been this time. And that plant generates annually 202 tons of carbon monoxide. Now, it doesn't have an emission limit for carbon dioxide because when it got its original permit in 2009, DEQ didn't require emission controls for carbon dioxide. It wasn't considered to be a pollutant. We now know, of course, it's the major greenhouse gas, but in those days it didn't. So when the permit renews every 10 years, it still doesn't have to disclose how much it is. According to the DEQ figures that they use to figure out how much your pellet stove produces, it's about 100 times more CO2 than CO. So we're talking about 20,000 tons a year.
Thank you. Thank you. You can submit that if you wish. Eliza Kaczynski, followed by Jojo Jensen.
Good evening. My name is Eliza Kaczynski, and I live in Ward 1. I'm thrilled to see that Council is going to be continuing the discussion about accessory dwelling units in Eugene. Thank you. Based on the last few rounds of this discussion, you're going to receive a lot of impassioned arguments and armchair technical analysis of the code and what the impacts of the changes will be. My armchair technical analysis will be coming soon, I promise. But a term that is likely to come up a lot is livability. In your packet for next week's work session, several ADU regulations are described as addressing livability. I've heard comments along the lines of, we need to balance livability with affordability. If we're going to be using livability as a criteria for determining what regulations related to ADUs we should keep or not, we should really have an understanding of what we mean by that. There is no livability without affordability. No one finds spending 30%, 50% or more of their income on their rent or mortgage to be particularly livable. There is no livability without sustainability. The car-centric development patterns of the past decades have been a major contributing factor to climate change, and we all know how failing to address that is going to impact the livability of our neighborhoods and world. Furthermore, different people define the finer points of livability differently. If you ask 10 people to describe their dream home and their dream neighborhood, you're going to get 10 different answers. When we say that one definition of livability trumps all others, and we have to take extreme measures to mitigate the impact of anything new or different, we are saying that all of the people who don't fit the current mode because of budget, lifestyle, family size, or housing preference aren't welcome. So when you're evaluating how to balance the specific provisions related to ADUs and if they're going to add or detract from the livability of our community, please think about more than traffic and views. Don't just protect livability for those who have already found a home that meets their needs and income. We need to be building a city that enhances livability for everyone, all Eugene residents of all ages and walks of life, renters and homeowners, people who were born here, and people who have only recently begun calling Eugene their home. Pass code changes that will help enhance the whole community. And remember that there is no livability without diversity, sustainability, and affordability. Thank you.
Thank you. Jojo Jensen, followed by Sandy Sanders.
Hi, my name is Jojo Jensen, and I live in Ward 3. I live in the Laurel Hill Valley, which is on the backside of Hendricks Park. For the past 5 years, I've been living next to a house that is solely used as an Airbnb. During this time, there's been an increase of traffic, noise, garbage, people coming and going at all hours, and it's had a major impact on our small cul-de-sac in our neighborhood. In this time, my neighbors and I have worked with Eugene City Code compliance officers to mitigate some of the more egregious impacts to the neighborhood, like large groups of people being loud at all hours, to serious parking issues, to safety concerns. Since the owner does not live in the house, he's absent, we've had to manage all of these problems on our own with very limited success. We've discovered that current city codes are not up to date to deal with short-term rentals and the real impacts that they're having on neighborhood livability and our quality of life here in Eugene. The codes for bed and breakfasts don't apply. The city occupancy codes are very hard to enforce, as the compliance officers must be on site to witness and document the infraction. This is very hard on our limited number of compliance officers already. There are other unforeseen consequences in not having up-to-date city codes regarding short-term rentals. In Santa Monica, California, for example, property investors moved in to purchase whole houses, taking them off the market for both sale and for rent, causing a housing crisis in Santa Monica, and also causing the cost of housing to rise. As we've heard tonight already, we already have a housing crisis in Eugene, and this is just adding to the problem. The good news is that there's cities all across the nation that are dealing with this problem and have some really great ideas for solutions, from residency requirements to registration fees to dedicated city staff that can help mitigate some of the problems of Airbnbs. Eugene has lots of options to choose from. I have a packet of information that I already gave to them that has lots of information on what other cities are doing about Airbnbs and how they're regulating some of these issues. That it can be a win-win-win situation for all of us, from the people that want to have Airbnbs to those of us who really value our neighborhood livability to the people that come and visit. We just need to take a look at the codes as they stand and update them to the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Sanders, followed by Sue Sierra Lupe.
My name is Sandy. I live on Maxwell Road, and I'm here to talk to you guys again about 5G, smart meters, and it ties together with climate change. And from what I heard today, it's very disappointing that I'm not hearing talk about universal rooftop solar. That's the ultimate way of getting energy, and if we had subsidies and we organized ourselves with the Fed, the state, and local regions to distribute these all across the country, we would have all the electricity we need. These things are not talked about because no one's got together. You don't ask people in this room for their opinions, nor do you solicit them or have them vote on policy or budget. Aside from that, I wanted to talk to you about what 5G is all about. And I have been digging deep to find out the nature of this little beast that these guys are selling us. And the problem is 5G is a scam to get business profits and have a privatized internet by having the only sole access broadband off the street. These things are going to be going every 250 feet. And as you can see in this chart, this is a company, Gartner Group, and they are one of the top research firms for Fortune 500 companies. They distributed this chart that shows the response of what business people think they're going to get, or they're going to be using 5G for. The top of the list is Internet of Things communications, then video. The sales to the public is that we're going to get faster internet and video. Myself, I have 7 megabytes download, upload, and we're fine. I don't need faster video. I don't need faster internet. I don't need anything but broadband door to door in our place that doesn't shoot RF all over the place and have routers that need to be configured and spraying us with stuff that's totally unnecessary. These guys, the whole thing about 5G is they want chips in everything, everywhere, so that business can regulate and monitor all activity and then make AI. AI is going to be in these chips, and they're going to make little commands that run to another chip that's just a short distance away, chain linking to all of these other boxes, so these guys can remote control all kinds of activities, automated vehicles, delivery, drones, street lights that go on and off. I mean, I'm sure the city has plans for how they want to use this for public safety in some way, send out a drone to a traffic accident or something like that. And it's crazy. This is like living in Minority Report. And I personally don't want to do that. I think that the people should have a choice where they want to deploy this technology or not. That's all the time I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Sierra Lupe, followed by Loretta Houston.
Good evening. My name is Sue Sierra Lupe. I have been a resident of Ward 1 for over 25 years. I'm the clinic manager for Occupy Medical. We hold the free weekly clinic on Sundays, a monthly on-site clinic at Looking Glass Station on 7th Street, and now a weekly clinic at St. Vincent de Paul's Lindholm Station on Highway 99. I had intended to request that city employees be given critical thinking skill training, as the anti-panhandling ordinance proposal is not data-based. But today at 6:30, I fielded a call from a longtime patient of our clinic who gave me permission to share her story as it pertains directly to the topic at hand. The woman in question and her husband are longtime residents of Eugene, Springfield area. Like other Oregonians, they lost their housing a decade ago. Their physical and mental disabilities made living on the streets a nightmare. Last summer, they finally acquired housing, pardon me, simply having a chance to charge the husband's wheelchair, take regular showers, and cook healthy foods has been life-changing. However, they're still struggling. Their SNAP benefits were recently decreased while food costs have increased. They desperately want to stay housed, but they are barely holding on. They panhandle to pay for things that charity organizations do not offer: utility bills, rent, food, and medical supplies. The husband's diabetes is causing the flesh on his legs to decay. We at Occupy Medical are working with him to heal, to avoid amputation from the knees down. This struggle requires constant medical visits, a healthy diet, and rest. This couple relies on the bus for transportation. They're recently banned from riding the bus for a week after LTD security caught the exhausted couple sleeping at a bus stop. Pardon me. Now they need transportation money too. They have run out of things to sell. Panhandling is their only option. Do not make asking for help illegal in Eugene. You have no evidence that a pedestrian on the sidewalk holding a sign is a traffic safety issue. Banning panhandling is classism, plain and simple. The proposal is a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Thank you. Loretta Houston, followed by Linda Heil.
First off, I want to say, well, I'm Loretta Houston in Emily's district, or ward, like county, city. First off, I just want to say how much I appreciate the passion and the knowledge of our community, so well prepared, and have been really looking in depth about some serious issues. So it'd be great if we can actually come to the work sessions and be a part at the table. I'm here to address 5G, hearing as well as climate change. Hearing Frank Lawson speak about how there's less frequency is absolutely not true. We're talking magnified exponentially of more frequency. Shorter waves, yes. That's why they have to install these every 250 feet within our communities. And this has never been done before on this scale. And we just attended an eWeb meeting last Tuesday and gave our testimonies, many of us. And at the end of it, we were really shocked that the board basically washed their hands of it, that they have no clue or any knowledge that this is occurring on eWeb polls. We have direct evidence and that these are being placed on eWeb polls within the city. And this doesn't happen just by a subcontractor coming in and placing them there. There's an arrangement, there's an agreement. And what we've been really upset about is the lack of transparency. That right in itself is enough to, within this lawsuit, as a really strong case to put a moratorium on this. There's absolutely no notice to the public, and there has been no testing, in-depth testing of how it affects biological systems, cyberspace threats, fires. There's on and on. We have to realize that we know the system is corrupt. It's ran by these large, multi-trillion-dollar telecommunications that are shoving it. They have all the money and the lobby power to go within our federal system and get the law set ahead of time in favor of their vision. And we have to be strong and bold within our communities, because our communities are the ones that have to live with the damage and the threats. So we do not buy that that our hands are tied. We have leverage. We are people. We are humans. We are not ignorant, and we refuse to just be bullied by the federal trumping the state and the state trumping the municipalities. This system has got to be turned around. This is not democracy when we are forced. Thank you. And also, we need to look at fiber optics. There are solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda Heil, followed by Shelby Shane Shear. Shelby, I hope you know what your last name is. Okay.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Linda Heil, and I live in Betty's Ward 2. I'm speaking tonight as much to community members as to the councilors about glaring problems with our developing climate action plan and how the plan might still be made a success. About a year ago, the city asked local organizations called large lever shareholders to identify significant voluntary actions to lower greenhouse gas emissions in Eugene. However, this process did not deliver good results. The LLS may have the ability to affect or alter systems, but they largely chose not to exercise that power for the good of Eugene. The scanty results of the LLS process are documented in the November forecast report. The city did not expect this to happen, although community groups warned over and over that the LLS process was unlikely to succeed. So a new element has been added called the GAP strategy plan. This boils down to giving council a list of 10 actions for building the rest of the plan. The target for that GAP plan focuses on addressing energy and waste, and the gap to this target is 84%. So our CAP has been begun by government bodies, academic institutions, local utilities, the wastewater treatment facility, and LTD. And 84%, almost the entire plan, has been handed to you, City Council, to decide. This is not the inclusive, broad-based process that Eugene deserves, but it is the corner that the city has painted itself into. City and Council, we have questions about how to give input. Which pieces or documents are citizens asked to review? Where are those documents available? How will input be analyzed and presented to council, the ultimate decision makers? Will input be factored into the reduction metrics that Good Company has provided? And if possible, I really would like answers to those questions. Where are the documents that citizens are asked to review for the GAP strategy plan? Community members, our climate action plan should be exactly that, ours, because we are the ones who will be putting it into action. Over the next few months, we must show what an engaged community looks like. This is what a engaged community looks like. Tell the city and council what you want in the climate action plan. 350 Eugene will be organizing ways to make our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Shear, I'm not sure. Shane, thank you. Followed by Eric Jackson. I'm going to go first. Okay. Okay, Eric first and then Shelby.
Councilors, city manager, city attorney, mayor. The first 6 months, I didn't do that mayor thing. I totally missed it. I thought everybody was councilors. And over the last 4 months, I've learned that the county has a lot of involvement in financing and facilitating a lot of the homeless response rather than the city. So I will be working with them as well. But for this week's message, or this monthly message, however it be come across, one gentleman mentioned the library as the basic warming center for the homeless in the Eugene community. I agree that that's true, and I probably think that it would be cheaper to staff the library for longer hours and allow it to be that during the cold months. Because right now, outside is freezing. Might be 34, 35, might even be 37 degrees. But it's freezing because it's 100% humidity just sitting in the air. It's not raining or not raining or raining or not raining. It's just sitting there. And try and sit still and try and have wet gloves that are going to keep you protected from the weather. But if the library was open longer hours, I think that you wouldn't need the child area staff for the most part, and the warming center would be functional. rent, the gentleman that said that rent at $14, probably with overtime, is out of reach. It's quickly becoming out of reach at $20 an hour. You guys did a great job. 10% increase in whatever factor the city had in helping the 160 grand or whatever they gave St. Vincent's de Paul for winter strategies to bed another 60, 65 of my friends. But I went there today and I waited from 4:45 until 5:30. And I didn't go to the right place because I was told to go to Lindholm from the beginning. And then I called Roxanne, and she said, yeah, you're supposed to be at Lindholm. And everybody at Lindholm told me that I had to be at the property at 717 in order to get a bed, because everything I have is soaked right now. So I figured, go inside to the warm for a week. There's plenty of empty beds, but at 5:30 I couldn't get in because I couldn't get in, nor could a couple of other people that were there trying to get in. And there's no Egan centers because it's not below 30. And below 30, dry, Denver, I could walk around in a t-shirt. Below 30 here, wet, winter months that they threw half the camp out at the county level. They threw half the people that were there onto the streets in the middle of winter. One of the tents at St. Vincent's collapsed on some people. One of the dozen holding tents collapsed on people the other day in the wind. But you don't see that on the news. There's a fight out in front of 99 camp, and the news feels that they need to broadcast that without having any information. And the police act in a certain way to facilitate looking bad. It shouldn't be that way. You guys can work on it separate.
Thank you.
Have the money.
Shelby Shear, correct? Shane, thank you.
On behalf of that, I was at Camp Highway 9. I'm with Jackson. It's easier for people with house. I don't even know what to say, honestly, but Jackson ran a good camp. I honestly think that we should add more time because, as for me, I'm outside on the streets with 2 little blankets. It's cold outside. Where I'm from, it's easier to be homeless. Here, it's rough because you sleep downtown, you get a ticket. You don't go to the community court, you go to jail. Like, what's the point of trying to do this if it's just going to end up being a failure each time? But I honestly think that y'all should give Jackson another chance and should have made that camp at least through the winter. But now we're out here freezing for what? Just to freeze, we get frostbite. It's too cold for this. At the St. Vinny's, they got their dinner tonight was 2 pieces of bread and some jelly. Like, that's not food. Like, how are you supposed to survive if you're not getting the resources to survive? I just don't understand, like, how could a city let this happen? I don't even know what to say. Look, this is what St. Vinny's at the new Highway 99 camp got for dinner tonight. 2 pieces of bread and some jelly. Like, that's not cool. That's not a meal. How that's for that? That doesn't even feed a kindergartner. You cannot survive off of 2 pieces of bread and some jelly. I don't get food stamps. I get an expedite check. $700 a month is not helping me survive. That lasts for maybe a week. I don't get food stamps here. I got a panhandle or spange or find a way to eat. Like, I don't know my resources here, but I'm sure I'm making it. It's hard. I don't have a tent. Most people have a tent. People have sleeping bags. I don't have no coat. I have no sleeping bag. I'm nothing. I survive the way I survive. And I'm going to survive, and I'm leaving. I'm getting out of Oregon.
How are you getting out?
Jackson's helping me get out of here. I'm going home because where I'm from is easier to survive. Here, this is a joke. Getting arrested for sleeping downtown is a joke.
Thank you. Nicholas Engel. Nicholas Engel, followed by Robin Bloomgarden.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Engel, and I'm not here to tell you how to do your jobs, but I think it is my and everyone else's responsibility in this room to demand that you do your jobs. You all have the responsibility to everybody. There are no private constituents or donors or parties that have higher vested interest than the people who are represented in this room. and their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. And it is time that you all put aside your party and individual characteristics. You all chose to be here. We have to be here because we're trying to fix things. You all are the ones responsible for doing that. It's time that it happens. These endless year after year debates about how to start doing something that needed to be done 20 years ago are ridiculous, time wasting, not to mention the cost that's gone into them could have helped spur our change in what we need to do with fossil fuels and getting behind the new energy and leaving behind the old. To the idea that you have a case like Our Children's Trust coming forward in Eugene, and hopefully you all are going to join and write amicus briefs for and work, because the children of Eugene deserve your work that you are being paid for handsomely and that you have agreed to do. Everybody here has been elected or volunteered or hired to do specific work that doesn't seem to be getting done very often. Instead of criminalizing homelessness and turning the unhomed into a new revenue stream, how about you start solving problems instead of making new ones? Thank you. We'll be watching.
Thank you. Robin Bloomgarden, followed by Jean Stacy.
Hello, I'm in Claire Surratt's ward, Robin Bloomgarden. So in last week's Eugene Weekly, there was a short article called 5G, the Next Generation. And Mayor Vinnis, you told a citizen group, it was reported in that article, that you think eWeb issues the permits for 5G antennas. Then Joe Harwood of eWeb later said, no, the city issues permits for the city's rights of way. So this is exactly why we citizens need to know that somebody is in charge here, that somebody cares about what the hell is going on. People. Really, I mean, this is ridiculous. The 5G rollout is happening fast, and we can't waste time dithering about all these details. We need to know what this is and either block it or not. So eWeb has deliberately not informed citizens about the radiation dangers of smart meters, so we know they won't be doing anything to protect us from any of the 5G rollout. So just because the city joined with other cities in challenging the FCC ruling, the city could and should issue a moratorium on any 5G being enabled in Eugene, at the very least, until a full public hearing can be held. So everyone, you guys too, can learn what the heck all this is. There's a major lack of public awareness about the deployment of these things, and this technology is way more dangerous than 4G. It's way more. How about City Council putting some serious energy into educating themselves and the citizenry about if we really want or need this dangerous upgrade, because there must be good reasons why so many groups are pushing back across the country, right? I mean, there's a lot of people pushing back. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Stacy, followed by Yoli Boa.
Hello, I'm Jean Stacy at 160 Oakley Lane here in Eugene. Y'all will remember the era of sleeps a few years ago when you made a lot of progress with starting rest stops, Opportunity Village, which is now grown into Emerald Village as well. But then we've had a slowdown until recently, and recently you granted 100 beds along with the county. So you're on a roll. We've got 10% down and 90% to go. And we've been thinking a lot about what needs to happen, because I hear from many people that many of you do want more rest stops. There's a problem of property and there's a problem of who's going to run them. John, could we count on a person from your staff to kind of go over the requirements for managing a rest stop and see if we can massage some of the issues that are stopping people?
We have that.
Can we count on you to work with us to try to find some new parameters that'll work?
We're happy to sit down and talk with you. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. That's what we need. We need to know what your issues are with some of the solutions that some of the counselors have felt are good and that are working in other places. Somehow, though, if we can solve the who's going to run them, and I think we can, we need to solve where they're going to be. We have to somehow fight NIMBYism. And guys, you're the target. They're working against you. And I have these fantasies instead of turning and trying to make some logical thing like this data I have given you tonight, which I hope you'll look at, that you turn around to them and you say, how dare you? How dare you say that because you want your child in her warm bed in her warm room not to be in danger when you drive her to school tomorrow, that you are going to force some other family? This is exactly what happened on a much grander scale to city councils whose white citizens councils told them they didn't want black people in their neighborhoods. Who has a right to say? What white person can say a black person can't be in their neighborhood? Nobody can they? That's not allowed anymore. What wealthy or middle-class person has the right to say that a poor person can't survive on public tax-paid-for property? Who has that right? How do you stand it? How do you not get so outraged when you know that you think that's okay?
Thank you. And our final speaker is Yoli Boa.
Mayor Vinis, council members, my name is Jolie Boy. I live in Ward 7. On February 1st, legal and social service providers, advocacy groups, and local political leaders submitted a letter to the Lane County Sheriff's Office demanding an end to the office's practices of assisting Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. The letter follows a report from local attorneys that sheriff deputies have been instructed to inform ICE when people are to be released from jail and allow ICE special access to the back entrance, also known as the Sally Port, of the Lane County Jail, further facilitating arrests by ICE. This practice is a clear violation of Oregon's sanctuary statute, which prohibits local law enforcement from carrying out federal immigration activities. Lane County and Eugene both have similar laws mirroring our Oregon statute. This past election, Oregonians overwhelmingly voted in favor of keeping Oregon's 32-year-old sanctuary law. Lane County voters defeated the No Measure 105 campaign by 37 points. This fall, Lane County voters made it clear that they don't approve local law enforcement acting as federal immigration enforcement. The actions taken by the Lane County Sheriff's Office are unlawful and are having harmful effects not only on immigrants, but on the entire community here in Eugene and Lane County as a whole. We believe that this practice erodes trust between local law enforcement and the public. And I believe that trust is the foundation of good community policing. But when local law enforcement plays a role of federal immigration agents, immigrants, and other folks as well are less likely to report crimes, whether they see one or they're the victim of one. And that has consequences for our entire community and makes us less safe. For the 2019 forecasted budget, a one-time $200,000 amount was allocated to maintain the current number of jail beds at the Lane County Jail. I believe it's 15 beds. Given our city and state statutes and the fact that we are spending money to Lane County Jail, I urge all of you to assist myself and these groups in asking the Lane County Sheriff to stop the practice of assisting ICE and apprehending individuals from released from Lane County Jail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for that many impassioned statements tonight. There are councilors, Councilor Siret. Any other councilors wish to speak? Councilor Semple. All right, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who came to speak. Lots of important information. I'm just going to address two things, I think. Well, three maybe. So I appreciate the public comment about the problem with the Airbnb. I do think that as a city, we need to look into, have a work session on Airbnb regulation, because that dynamic's only going to get worse as we head towards the World Championships. And on a related note, I was very taken aback to read in a recent Register Guard editorial the assertion that landlords should have the right to evict people from their homes in order to profit from a short-term rental during those championships. Landlords do currently have the right to do that, but that would be an abhorrent practice in my mind. And so if the state legislature does not take action to protect renters from no-cause evictions, I think this council needs to take action to prevent a spike in homelessness leading up to the games, because that would be a shameful legacy for an event that we are working so hard to make a positive experience for our community. Regarding the panhandling ordinance, so Sue Sierra Lupe, I think, has left, but I want to make it clear I do not support this ordinance, but I want to clarify it was not brought forward by city staff. It was brought forward by residents who asked certain councilors to bring forward a hearing, including residents in my ward who I had to say, no, I cannot support such an ordinance that is the same as Springfield's. And of course, they were disappointed in my position. But if you do not support this ordinance, I urge you to show up at the public hearing on February 19th. That's a Tuesday evening instead of our usual Monday night, because Monday's a holiday, and make your voice heard. And City Manager, I see on our tentative agenda that the February 27th work schedule session is when we are scheduled possibly to take action on that ordinance, and I have a work conflict that I don't think I can get out of, and so I would respectfully ask that the council not vote on that ordinance when I'm not able to attend the meeting.
The mayor and I have already talked about that possibility, so we'll be looking for another date when all councilors are available.
I appreciate that. The other item on that day is a rest stop update, which I'm also very interested in. So if I was able to rearrange my schedule, I would certainly do that. This is something I'm not able to do that. Lastly, I was very concerned about the report alleging that the Lane County Sheriff's deputies have been calling ICE when they're releasing people who may be here without status, and Sheriff Trapp has categorically denied it, but that's all he's done. And I would really encourage the sheriff to meet with the community members who offered those allegations and make a more clear conversation about what exactly led to those allegations in the first place, because that is a public safety issue that affects our community and is not just limited to what the Lane County sheriffs decide to do.
All right, Councilor Semple.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came and spoke, as always. Councilor Siret, I agree with you about the anti-panhandling. I did vote to have a public hearing. I still think that's the right thing to do because so very many people have requested, and I'm always ready to listen, but I'm not ready to vote for that. As always, my biggest concern is our homeless crisis. Commissioner Farr said in January that we needed to be more innovative, and we really do. We're going around and around in circles, and we're not making progress. We need more rest stops. We need more places. We need less NIMBYism. We need more people to run them. I think we really need to look into a good model of self-governance with people who have been vetted and taken classes and have met certain requirements, because we don't have the facilities and the people to run it, but we do have homeless people who do know what they need. Some of them need help that wouldn't let them run a camp, but that doesn't mean that people can't participate in a council running their own lives, and I think that we need to look in that direction. I also think we need to find places for people with dogs. In December, Terry McDonald was here, and he said that St. Vincent's did take dogs as long as they were under control and well-behaved. And I know that there's more than 20 dogs out there for the micro dawn to dawn. So this is a huge need. If you have a dog, you cannot be sheltered right now. And another concern that's coming up over and over again, a really big one today, is both the towing of cars and RVs. People are losing their homes and every single thing they own inside the RV, possibly even their ID and money to get it out of impound. People can live in these RVs and cars. We're desperate for housing, and we're not letting them use these resources because there's nowhere to park. Come on, there's lots and lots of parking lots. We should be camping there. I'd like to see the dawn to dawn replicated. I was out there on Friday. Boy, those tents that we got for the City Hall lot and the day center, they're gorgeous. They're just gorgeous. And I'm still sad about not using them downtown. But the dawn to dawn looks very, as much as it can be, it's nice. And you come in and there's really good direct support. They're housing people. We need 10 of them. I'm out of time, but we're not. We need to work harder. Thanks.
Any other comments? Any other counselors needing to weigh in? Okay, thank you all very much. Those of you who stayed to the very end of the public forum, thank you for staying. Thank you for bringing your thoughts and ideas to us. And we are now ready to go on to our formal business. Sure, thank you. Consent calendar.
I move to approve the items of the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. None opposed, so that passes. Thank you. And I believe that's all we have on our agenda. So we are adjourned. Thank you.